Hello, it's Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. I was like, and where we help stop the bottleneck in your business. But we are not here to talk about my business today. We are here to talk with Kelli Reese. I can't wait to do this introduction. You're going to love it. If you have any questions, please ask away, whether you're watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube. It's live. We'd love to have participation. Understand if you're not ready to participate. It's a little uncomfortable, I know. But if you're watching this in a replay version, please, by all means, post your comments. Post in the comments your questions or suggestions, and I'll make sure to forward those off to Kelli. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this, and let's have a great conversation. Hello, Jamie J, CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance, where we help stop the bottleneck in your business. Today, I am super honored, kind of pretty stoked to be talking with Kelli Reese, all the way from Ojai, California. We're going to be talking about what to know before you decide to leave your position. And Kelli is a soulful leadership coach for women in business of Lead with Soul, LLC. And why, oh, why? Can Kelli help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. Kelli's a certified leadership coach and clearing expert for female leaders. She works with women in management, provides them with powerful tools to show up as the soulful, unapologetic leaders they're meant to be. She's dedicated to helping women reclaim their lives and once again find deep meaning and purpose in leadership, business, and life. In 2015, Kelli walked away from a 17-year career where she was most recently running a $34 million organization. Kelli combines years of experience in business and leadership with decades of personal growth and spiritual development. Kelli is the author of 2 books, not one, but 2 books that help women navigate the unknown place she calls the void. Through private coaching and retreats, women find the courage and self-alignment they need to trust who they are and transform their careers, relationships, and life. So without any further ado, please allow me to welcome Kelli Reese. How are you?
I'm great. Yes, career. Thanks for popping that word in there.
Yeah, hey, we make mistakes all the time here, but we own them. We own them.
Work in progress.
Well, it's so nice to have you join us here today. And the topic that we're talking about today is super important. And thank you for having the courage to talk about this, because this is what to know before you decide to leave your position is instrumental. And I will say this, that when I left, I was in corporate America for 12 years, 11 years to try and figure out how to get out. But when I left, my first client was the company that I worked for. And so I think it's really important not to burn bridges, but that's just a quick little synopsis of an example I can think of right off the top. But I'd love for you to share with us a little bit more about who you are, what you've been up to, and what you're doing now. And I just can't wait to talk to the expert about what people should do before they leave their current position.
Thank you. It's so funny you say that about leaving corporate America, not burning bridges. I left a really toxic environment. And so the universe kind of made it clear that you're no longer where you're meant to be and you need to do something else. And it took me like a year of like going back and forth and I don't know. And finally it was like this just gigantic kick in the ass. And so I really didn't have a choice. I kind of had to pull the plug. I kept trying to jam my round peg into a square opening and it wasn't working. And I was like, why do I feel so off? So some people need to leave, and you don't need to like do a lot of like hemming and hawing if you're in a really toxic environment. So, but there are people who are just kind of in that place of like, I'm not really sure. I feel like I want to do something else. I feel completely off center. Your intuition is probably in the background saying like, there's something else you could be doing. And but not everybody can leave. And so that's why I talk about this, because not everybody that I work with has the means or the opportunity within their environment to actually walk away. There's all this messaging on social media about, follow your bliss, become an entrepreneur, do your own thing. And that can feel like a lot of pressure when you're not in a position to do those things.
Do something you're passionate about. You'll never work a day in your life.
Yes. I do work a lot less hours than I did when I was running a $34 million organization. And I do have a lot less stress, but it is not easy, smooth sailing. It's really nice to have somebody give you a paycheck all the time.
Security, right?
Know where your money's coming from. Yeah, the security factor is huge. So there's things to consider. But when I left when I was going to harken back to what you were saying, is that when I left, my first few clients were the employees that who I was working with, who wanted to get out of there as well. So they became my first coaching clients, which was really lovely and said a lot about the relationships that I had with them. And I was really honored to do that work with them. So yeah, after I left my career, I thought like, great, everything's going to be okay. I walked away from all that stress that's behind me, shove it back there. And there was really no shoving. It took me like 11 months to really go through a process of really forgiving myself for staying somewhere longer than I should have, of forgiving the people who were involved in the ripping the rug out from under me. But after that process, what revealed for me was even more dissatisfaction. I was like, okay, now the work stress is gone. My stress level is feeling better, but I still feel like crap. So then one day I was like sitting and it was just quiet and I was in meditation and I was like, tears are coming down my cheeks. And I was like, what is going on? And I just heard your relationship. And I was like, oh, for God's sakes, there's more stuff I got to look at. And so what that ended up being was I was also in a relationship that was no longer working. And I had to come to grips with that as well. So 18 months after I left my position, I left my marriage. I walked away from a business I had opened, a brick and mortar business I co-owned with somebody after I left that job. And I moved out of the country. I moved to Tulum, Mexico. And then I spent 2 years traveling around the globe, doing retreats, working with clients virtually, while I was doing this like healing work and going on this journey of understanding, like, how did I spend all this time working to get to some place that felt so misaligned once I got there. And I really want to help people avoid doing that. So that's why I do the work that I do, because it doesn't have to get to that painful place that I was in. There were a lot of signs along the way. There were things that I could have heeded the signs a lot sooner, And I also think that my role, I would have felt differently had I spoken up, had the courage to say what needed to be said, even though it was really uncomfortable or scary. I spent a lot of time allowing the board to do their thing, keeping my head down and be like, I'm just going to do my job. I'm just going to do my job, and just not really saying what needed to be said until it felt like I had to. And then I don't know that I always said it in the best way that it needed to be said at that point,
Yeah. I want to take a moment though to acknowledge the courage that it takes to walk away from something like that. In my opinion, I feel that a lot of people think that that's just normal. You go through your life and you got to put up with that stuff. And you have security, you're providing for your family, you have health insurance, whatever it is, that's what you have to do. Work may not necessarily be a fun place. And you know what? I'm going to do my best. And then I get to go home and I get a small vacation a year, and I get to spend the weekends with my family. And I really commend you, and acknowledge. I want to acknowledge that, because, as you said, that transition, you said, painful, and to leave a toxic environment like that, including maybe even a toxic relationship, anything that's just not aligned with where you are as a person, is really doing a disservice to you. And I don't think, especially in the coaching capacity, having the experience of going through not only the events that unraveled or occurred, but knowing the emotion that was tied to that, speaks volumes to whomever it is that you're working with, that may or may not have experienced that level of grief or pain. And I say grief or pain because I think, in my opinion, that's kind of what it is. It was for me.
Yeah, it's a lot of loss.
So hindsight's 2020. You have the added benefit now of kind of looking back on the events that may have led up to ultimately you deciding to leave that career behind and go on to something else. It's almost a blessing that you went through that because of where you're at now. My question is, you said there were many signs, and I'm wondering, what were some of the signs that that started popping up that you were like, hey, I'm not vibing with this.
Right. So there's some things that happened. Some big shit happened. And we'd get through that thing, and as the person leading the organization, leading a team, and I'd be like, okay, we just get through this, then we'll be okay. Then we'd have maybe like 3 weeks of it's okay, and some other big thing would happen, and this cycle kept happening to the point where I was like, I have to look at, like, what is this? Why is this happening? Why are we actually dealing with all of this major stuff, And I came in as a change agent, somebody who was driving change in the organization because it needed it. But at some point, you have to look at how willing are the people in this organization to change? How willing are they to get on board with the change that's happening? And you have to institute change at the level that people can handle it, right? Mm-hmm. So it didn't feel like we were pushing extremely hard, but we were trying to go in and retool, rewrite some things, that some long-standing things that if it had continued, the organization would cease to exist. If we kept paying people at the level that they were being paid for the work that they were doing without any wage caps. But that was a huge issue for people, what do you mean wage caps? Well, you can't just keep making money and get a 5% increase over the life of the time that you've been here. So there were certain things that were happening, but as I was creating these changes and bringing these things into and we did it with conversations, all kinds of stuff. But when it was being met with so much resistance and so much stress and just, I could feel it inside of me, and that sign for how it was affecting me on my personal level and my health level became what was the driving force for me to actually leave. I worked in natural foods, so when it started affecting my health, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I got into natural foods to support my eating habit and get way back 20 years earlier, I had a restaurant too. Yeah. So I was like, hold on, this is actually affecting me. When I went to the doctor and she said, you have 3 fibroid tumors growing on your uterus. And I said, well, what causes that? And she said stress. I was like, okay. And it was like that moment. I was like, this is not okay. There's a lot I sacrificed, and I would continue to sacrifice in order to, because I had a vision. We had some place we were going toward, and I could see what was possible, but it kept, with all those big things that kept happening, it just kept pulling us off track from the thing that we were really trying to do. And so if something like that keeps happening, question it. Ask yourself, am I on the right path? Is the organization on the right path? There's some things that you can ask yourself, but it doesn't have to get to the point where it affects your health, but certainly that was a big turning point for me.
Yeah. Well, so I really like the fact that you kind of illustrated your own feelings. I would think that other people may be able to resonate with similar feelings that they're experiencing now. So you've done a really good job of kind of shaping maybe a toxic environment and how that can contribute to, stress, increased stress levels, and potentially even health related issues.
Right.
So when you left, where there's two things. One place I want to go with this is, okay, what did you do to make that relationship terminate, or how did you separate from that? But were you also planning this next coaching venture while you were still at that job?
Right. So I'm one of those people that I just kind of flow. Things happen and fall into place. And I look back and go, oh, I didn't even plan this. How did this happen? So I didn't necessarily plan to be a coach, but I had done a coach training for leaders for leadership through my work. And I was using that coaching. Actually, I had a couple of people on the leadership team go through that process. And so I became a certified coach, not thinking it was something that was going to be an after thing, that I was using it in the work that I was doing because I loved coaching. That's the part of my work that I loved. I loved helping people develop themselves, like professional development. But I also knew at one point that I felt this deep in my soul. I needed to affect change on a level that was much bigger than the 10 people out of 250 that were being, impacted or affected. Right. And so that was like a little thing in the background. And then I knew. I knew that there was something else I was meant to be doing, but I was so afraid to look at, what else is possible. It wasn't until I was working with an executive coach and she said to me, Kelli, what if this is happening for you and not to you? And I had already thought of that. And so for me, it was, if it dropped in and then she said it, I was like, all right, I've heard this twice now. And I was like, I really have to look at this. It kind of goes back to what you're saying. They did me a favor, right? I look back and was able to see that, the main instigator of that whole thing that happened, that she did me a favor. She actually and it took me a while to forgive. I'm not saying that, but I could see that all those pieces fell into place to kind of usher me into the work that I'm doing now. And there was a lot of trust involved because if you believe in the idea that this is happening for you, not to you, then it really shifts the perspective that you have about where you are and what's possible for your future. It doesn't offer a lot of security because I really didn't, I was kind of like, okay, well, what is possible? But when I left and decided I'd always wanted to write a book, and that was one of the things I decided I wanted to do. But there was a lot of healing that had to take place. And so I was able to, through the process of writing both of those books, I wrote them for me. I wrote them for the people that I wrote them for, but they were a healing process for me as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. And so you took a negative and turned it into a positive. So what are some of the things people, let me ask you this, and if you don't want to answer, it might be too personal, I don't know.
I'm pretty much an open book.
How did the relationship end? I mean, was it on terms to where you exited okay, or was it just nasty?
No, it wasn't toxic at all. I'm actually glad you asked, and she said, well, maybe it was toxic. We are still friends, and we never had a problem being friends. Like, people don't understand how we're still friends. I just went on a vacation when he was there, and with a group of our friends. And so people don't understand how we maintain a friendship. But I always tell them, like, we had no problem being friends. It was the other parts. There was all these other pieces. And actually, the relationship roadmap is that whole story. And he's a great person. It's just, I knew that, and I said to him, these are the things that I need. And as I'm understanding like where we are in our relationship, here's what's necessary going forward. But then I also knew that I was trying to turn him into somebody he wasn't, and that was so not fair to him. And so part of me walking away was like releasing him from this idea that I've been like trying to force him into some sort of like pocket that he didn't belong in.
Did you talk about that during the exit?
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I think that's really smart that you recognize that.
Yeah, it took work. It took a lot of work. You know, it took the work that I do with my clients. We do work on their relationship, on their business, all the things come up, you know. But I think I'm in a unique position to be able to help them with the things that come up in their relationship, because a lot of times we end up getting triggered by things that really don't have anything to do with the person who's standing across from us. But it took work for me I tried a lot of different things. I drove myself insane, and I'm sure I drove him insane before I got to the point where I was like, oh, I see what I'm doing. It's not about him. This is about me.
Well, I just think it's fantastic that you were able to identify that. I think that would be something that would be pretty hard to do. And I was talking a little while ago with a gentleman by the name of James Sinclair, who talks about the importance of, exiting. He says, if you leave an organization and, you just leave on bad terms, that leader is responsible for that departure. And if they're going to dismiss someone in a negative manner, that's about the worst thing you can do. If you're kind to somebody and kind of lift them up and help them on to the next journey of their life, guess what? They're going to become an advocate for your organization. And so I feel strongly about that. In leaving a situation like that, what do you tell people? Maybe one or two things, like how do they leave that organization to, leave on good terms?
Yeah. And it is true, you don't want to burn bridges. The thing that Michelle Obama says, when they go low, we go high, like that's how I never had a phrase like that for it. But I always feel like I choose the path that aligns with my heart, not what my mind is telling me, all the crappy things that have happened or all the shit that affects my ego and, the like, this is an injustice, that piece, it's like when I really go beneath all of that stuff, it's like, how do I really want to be in this situation? How do I want to present myself? How do I want to go out? And for me, I want to choose the way that I don't have to go back and clean up a mess, or that I'm not ruminating for weeks and months later going, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Because that is how my mind works. I will replay the thing over and over and over again if I feel like I haven't done it in a way that's in integrity with who I am.
I love that. So my next question would be, there's so many ways I can go with this. Do you leave an organization when it's toxic? When it's toxic, your health is questionable. I mean, it's that severe, without having the next thing yet? Or do you hold out and make sure you secure like the next place you're going to go to? And the reason why I say this is because mindset at that point is maybe judgment's not as clear as it should be, because there's so much emotion driving those decisions. But I also understand not everybody could be in a position where they can leave and kind of travel the world for a couple of years, right? They may be strapped. They may have a family. They may need to continue working. What do you say there? And what's the best decision? Or how do you come up with a decision?
Yeah, you get outside input. It depends if you have a support system, not just necessarily like a partner who can support you monetarily, but a support system where you can get outside of all of the noise in your head and get a clear view of what's happening, right? There are ways to manage stress. There's ways to go about dealing with a toxic environment. And if you have tried everything and there's no way out, then and it's affecting your health in a detrimental way, then my recommendation is just to do what you can to leave, to exit in a way that that you're no longer feeling that weight, because it's some environments are just it's not healthy, and for me, the piece that was really challenging is that I walked away, but it wasn't necessarily the fix for the internal stuff that I was looking for. And so you could be doing that work ahead of time if it's not toxic. You can be doing that like internal work to really get clear on what it is you want, what's possible, getting clarity and trusting what you know deep inside. And I think that's the biggest piece. Like, I lost who I was in my role. I lost, like, I had 2 lives running parallel, but they didn't ever come like this. And that is really hard, because who I was in this piece over here in my life was a portion of what I was showing in the leadership role that I had, because I just felt like I couldn't be myself. And so part of the problem when you're in a role and you feel like you need to get out, one of the things to ask yourself, if it's not toxic, is, am I in an environment where I feel like I can be me? I feel like it's okay to be who I am, that I don't feel like I'm going to get judged if I give a thought or an opinion. And can I show up as myself? Because if you're not showing up as yourself, that is extremely, extremely exhausting, because you take a lot of extra time ruminating on all of the things that you believe you need to be, who you need to be, and trying to fit yourself into that mold that you think you need to be. And so it's an exhausting place to be. I don't know if I exactly answered your toxic question, but
no, you did. That was great. Yeah, because it's, this is kind of this is uncharted waters. This is unknown territory, and how do you navigate? You're out in the middle of the ocean. It's pitch black. The clouds are rolling in. The wind is blowing. The plotting chart is down. You're kind of sailing blind, so to speak. And I love sailing. That's why I use that analogy. But I love being out on the water. But I like getting lost a lot. My hat, it says lost a lot, and it's just okay. It's a lot of fun, because it's fun for me. But that's who I am. That's not everybody. Right. So where is someone at what point do they reach out to someone like you in their life? And then I'll ask you how people can contact you, and we can wrap up. Okay.
Yeah. So my goal is to get people before they actually make the decision to leave. Okay. And because I want to help them be really clear on why they're leaving, and what's underneath the, like, I'm looking outside of myself, and it's the job, it's the people, it's the, I don't feel this, I don't feel that. We spend, I don't know, a third of our life are spent working. So if you're focused on trying to, like, fit yourself into being somebody you're not, that's exhausting. But if you're focused on all the things, the external things that you think are the problems, and if you walk away, that'll all be fixed because you're going to leave that behind. That's not always the case. And so I'm looking to get to people before they actually make those decisions to walk away, so that they can be crystal clear on why they're doing it, and they don't take some of the stuff, the internal stuff that needs to be looked at, with them into the next role.
Gotcha. Okay. And how do people get a hold of you?
I'm pretty easy to reach. So Facebook Messenger, I have a website, and I have a pretty active Instagram, and I answer DMs as well, and LinkedIn too.
And LinkedIn too. All right. Well, and can you tell us a little bit about your books?
Yes. Yeah. So the first book, The Destiny Roadmap, it is the little guidebook to face your fears, embrace change, and follow your heart. And it's written for people who are sitting in what they deem as a soul-sucking job and wondering how to get out. And the relationship roadmap is all about what to do when you're questioning your relationship and wondering if you are still with the right person. And you don't always have to walk away. So both of those really deal with that unknown place where you say you like getting lost. Like, I love eating change for breakfast. That's what I say. And I love navigating the unknown place that I call the void. It's not as scary as it seems. It's just like, you just need to know where the light switch is.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking your time and sharing your perspective and sharing your information. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap?
No, this has been a great conversation. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, I know I went 6 minutes longer than I thought. I'm sorry about that. It was a great conversation. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have just a moment, and I go ahead and wrap up?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on just 1 second, and I'll wrap up. Thank you so much, Kelli.
Thank you.
So I was talking to Kelli Reese today, and if you're watching this in a replay and you find the need to want to reach out to her, please make a comment on there. Or you can go to her website, kellireese.com, and that's Kelli with an I, REESE.com. You can reach out to her on LinkedIn. She's on Facebook. She's on Instagram. And of course, by all means, her 2 books, The Relationship Roadmap and The Destiny Roadmap, all available in Amazon. And what a wonderful conversation. So please reach out to Kelli if you're considering a move to leave your current position, preferably before you actually leave, so that she can really find out the why and what the challenges are and how she can. That's the way that she can best help you. So please reach out. Go to kellireese.com. Kelli Reese is the soulful leadership coach for women in business of Lead with Soul. And today we have been talking about what to know before you decide to leave your position. Great conversation with Kelli, all the way from Ojai, California. Had a great time. Just a couple quick things. If you want to listen to more shows just like this, you can subscribe to us on YouTube at bottleneck.online/TV. Learn how you can break through the bottleneck in your business today. Previously, just this past week, I talked with Hunter Thurman, president of Alpha Diver, and we talked about creating a model-based culture. We looked at the 4 drivers of human behavior. That was an excellent episode as well. So if you missed that one, go back and check that out. What you'll find from that episode is exactly how to talk to your clients. If your clients at a certain demographic are dropping off or something like that, his 4 drivers for human behavior will put you right back on track. It's a really good episode. Coming soon to your earbuds, we're going to be talking with Sandra Stachowicz. She's a book strategist, 5 times best-selling author, publisher of Sandra Stachowicz Limited and Dark Horse Publishing. And we're going to be talking about why capable business owners never get their book written and published and how to change it to unlock your legacy. That's coming up Thursday, July 15th, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. And speaking of books, oh my gosh, that's why I have so much respect for Kelli. She wrote 2 books. I've been writing for the last 7 months. New book coming out in September called Quit Repeating Yourself. We're doing cover designs. We're voting on that with my author circle this week, so I'm really excited about that. We talk about the 3 parts of business, which is leadership, culture, systems, processes, recruiting, and hiring. It's been a crazy ride, but I'm really excited to have that come out in September. And other than that, I just want to say thank you so much, and thank you again to our special guest, Kelli Reese. What to know before you decide to leave your position soon. Reach out to her at kellireese.com. Thank you again for tuning in. And remember, create your own ripple.